want to pick up a little bit of the discussion that Fred's been having about ethics and morals and value and choice, and in some way, the way that binary sensibilities, I guess, are related to that sense of something is either wholly subjective or wholly objective, that there is an empirical, outward, objective moral that's in the world, or some evaluative principle that's there objectively, say, for example, suffering, or it's wholly solipsistic and it's inward and it's subjective and there's no objective quality or characteristic that one could appeal to. And I think Fred was rightly problematizing that sort of either or thinking and was tracing back many different ways that we are distinct from some forms of life and from some others, and yet very related to some forms of life and others. And depending upon how you want to focus at any given point, you can, I guess, identify or pull into as a reference those things that are similar or that we share with other organisms, or that those things that mark us as different or somehow unique. I think the thing that I would say about this, and I think the thing that was interesting is that in Fred's video he makes reference to Damasio and the 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 quality or the felt sense of positive or negative toward things, just a general sense that something is uh, positive or negative, just simply stated, uh, good or bad, right? For it or against it, maybe would be the way to say it. As much as I would want to say that all organisms and organisms with a nervous system that can recognize their environment, they, in that sense, are continuously confronted by contexts that have choices within them, and choices are made according to that embedded evaluative logic, uh, sort of allows the organism to, within that context, make certain choices, right, according to what has a preference, what doesn't, what is says come here, what says go away, what's being attracted, what's being repelled. I think what's so significant and so important is the human dimension of the choice of context. It's not just context of choice. It's also choice of context. The more that we think about choice of context and how choice of context is part of the way that we differentiate between what we're calling human thought, and I think even the most sophisticated computers, other animals, certainly other animals, um, that is, the animal is able to take options as long as it doesn't have to recontextualize the options, right? Like I can say to the dog, you can either go outside or take, or have a treat. And when I do that, the dog, it's confused. It usually deals with, that as a sign of an impending action. And it shows that when humans think about things, we're able to deal with things decontextualized, because providing context is one of the main ways that we, I guess, deal with contexts of choice. That is, there are continuous contexts of choice all around us. I look around and I can pick up this flag or I cannot, or I can wave this little box of things or I cannot. And those either ors are caught within a larger frame of meaning, right? And that larger frame of meaning is, how do I contextualize that? See, information systems. See, part of the difference between information systems and communication systems is that information systems basically deal with contexts of choice. As multiple choice tests would be a very simple example. Either or tests would be a very simple example. And without the ability to recontextualize that, people can get railroaded, they can be sandbagged, they can be caught, they can be sort of, how would I say, trapped into those options that only seem available because those were the options that were given. But I think part of what we mean by human consciousness, or by the unique human gift or plight, I'm not sure what you want to call it. Humans somehow are always caught with the choice of context, and that choice of context makes communication infinitely complex. Right? A person can say, you take the Bill Clinton, whatever, did you cheat on your wife? And immediately he goes, well, what do you mean by cheat? Right? Recontextualize the question rather than simply deal with it in an information theoretic sense, which is, I gave you a context of choice. It had an either or option. Either you did or you didn't. And then instead the person says, well, it depends on what you mean by what. This capacity, which seems so mundane, I'm not sure that people realize how, or I'm not sure if we can, myself, right? I mean, it's hard for us as humans, I think, to see what that really means in its fullest implications of how that has affected the way that we think and the world openness that we experience because of that. The way that we can scale around. I mean, but part of this, are we animals or are we not animals? Well, of course we're animals, but we're also, you need to be able to recontextualize that question. See, it's like the question itself becomes loaded in the same way that someone says, well, are values objective or are they subjective? The inability to see that without the larger question of how can I recontextualize that and how is the contextualization of those options really the critical issue. So anyway, that would be some things. I'm going to post here another video there that's on communicology and on binary analog logic. Please check out Richard Lanigan's stuff. He's got some really wonderful work on some of this. Okay, thanks.